Hi, this is Randy, and in this video we want to take a look at installing a virtual pfSense firewall. To do this, we are going to need to know some information. Got that again in my little text file here. We need to have our ESXi host configured. We're going to be using a couple of the data stores that we configured in earlier in our project. We're going to be connecting the firewall to the CorpNet and to the internet switches, so we need those configured. We're going to have needed to have gone out to the internet and downloaded the latest ISO file for pfSense. Now, we do have a copy of that here in the lab. As we're installing the firewall, we're going to need to know its IP addresses. We're going to be using both IPv4 and IPv6, and we're going to need to configure those for its external interface and also for its internal interface. And so we need to have that information. pfSense, it's when it installs, what you're left with is kind of like what you see when you work with ESXi. It's just a console. There's really not a lot you can do with it post installation. I mean, you can work with it and stuff, but to really configure it and whatnot, it's headless, and so it's intended to be worked with from a web browser. So we're going to need already to have built a virtual machine that has a functional web browser, because we're going to need that machine then to be able to open a web page and go to the management web page for pfSense and can complete the installation wizard and do our configurations. We also need to kind of know how to build it. We're building it virtually, and we've got a build doc. I'll show you these when we finish going through the text file here, where we've identified what we think are good kind of basic parameters for RAM, CPU, and whatnot to build this virtual. And as part of the installation, we're going to need to be able to identify the MAC addresses for the two network cards we assign to it. One of the things about virtuals is you create the virtual network cards, but they're not always easy to figure out which one is which, and so we do that by MAC address. So this is the information that we need in order to complete our install of ESXi. And we'll just take a look at where some of this comes from. Move this out of the way, and we've got this document, which we use a lot here. I don't want to scroll it off the screen, but here you can see where pfSense sits within the virtual environment. In earlier videos, we dealt with the outside of this. We dealt with the host. Now we're turning our attention into the inside, and these are all virtuals. We've got virtual switches here, and we're going to build this virtual firewall. A lot of the information that you need has been given to us. It's because we're all doing the same lab. So we've got the name for it. We've got most of the external address for IPv4 and IPv6. We've got, again, most of the internal addresses and so on. So what we're going to need we're going to need a functional one of these machines with the web browser that we can then use to go in and configure it once we've got it done. So you'll need at least one other virtual. Now the IP addresses that we needed, they all came from here. Okay, and again, this is the IPv6 addresses are abbreviated. The full IPv6 address is down here, and then the XX are the values that we get to work with for our individual networks. So let's move this one out of the way. We've got another document called the build document, and it's got definitions for all of our virtuals. Let's see if I can get that one where we can see it there. So we've got our host, here's PF1 over here, and our other virtuals. So we just introduce these two documents to you, and then we'll set them aside, and I've taken the notes I need and put them again on my text file. So let's go ahead and get started. Looks like what we can do here, we're at 4 minutes into the video, so we'll just do the basic ESXi virtual build, and then we'll close up this video, and then we'll come back in and fire it up. So to create this virtual, we're going to virtual machines. We right click and we say create or register a VM. We're going to create a new virtual machine. Okay, I'm going to name it. I'm going to just name mine PF1. You could also do the full name here. I'm working with Wyoming, I believe, wyoming.bobstocko.com. So we could give it a full name, whatever you'd like. We're working with version 6.5 of ESXi. For the guest OS, we're going to use other. pfSense is built on Berkeley or FreeBSD. Yeah, FreeBSD. So we select other. We go to FreeBSD 64-bit. We Continuing with the wizard. Where are we going to put the data store for the virtual hard drive? In our build document it said put it on data store 1, so we're good with that. We then come to recommendations for CPU, RAM, and hard drive space, and you notice that it's very light, and this is adequate for just a fundamental firewall features of pfSense. No problem here. If we wanted to do caching or other things, then we might add some more RAM or might add some more hard drive space, but this is good for us. Notice we just at this point have one network card, and we'll also come back later and we'll attach the ISO file here, but let's just get through the basic build. Okay, I'm just asked to take a look at what we've done here, and we'll go ahead and finish it. Now that we finished it, it does show up in our list. We can now right click on it and we can go to Edit Settings. We want to add a second network card to it. So add a network adapter. Okay, we've done that. We want one of them to be on CorpNet and one to be on Internet, and this is where we're going to need the MAC addresses to know how to assign these when we build the virtual. I'm going to go ahead and kind of, I think that actually I'll get it right if I just guess. We're guessing here. Okay, so I'm putting Internet at the top as my first adapter and CorpNet as my second adapter. Let me go ahead and also mount the ISO. So I'm going to browse on that. That is coming from our iSCSI store, and there it is. Okay, so I select that. Okay, and want to be sure that the CD/DVD drive is turned on. Now the one thing that we don't have just yet is we don't have the MAC addresses, and I'm going to wrap up this video here just in a minute. We're just about done with the build, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in the next video and we're going to power it on. But we're going to power it on just for the purpose of getting the MAC addresses. So once we have those, then as we go through the configuration for pfSense, we'll know exactly which network card we're working with. Okay, so let me go ahead and save this, and I'll wrap up this video and we'll continue on with the next video.